Hello and welcome to Yes to Entrepreneurship podcast. The Yes to Entrepreneurship podcast is where you, the listener, gets to eavesdrop in on the conversations I'm having with fellow entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Ed Troxel, aka the guy who makes business and technology stupid easy for you. Whether you already have a business or are thinking about starting one, you are in the right place. Grab a pen, grab some paper, and get ready to take notes because you're about to get an inside look at the real conversations entrepreneurs are having. Quick shout out to our sponsor, StupidEasy.com. StupidEasy.com is a new online course platform where you can easily upload and sell your online courses without having to be tech savvy and without them taking a cut of your sales. Discover more at StupidEasy.com, and we'll have a link in the show notes for you. You mentioned that you also have a podcast. Can you tell me a little bit about the podcast?
I sure do. It's been out for about a year and it's called Visibility Vixen. And it's all about helping launching female entrepreneurs with just pretty much everything that goes into entrepreneurship and visibility. So that's, the tech stuff. And I bring in experts to talk about that. But more often than not, it's the inner work. So we also talk about healing and health and balance and all of that. So it's really a collection. I have family circle episodes where me and my parents and my husband sit down and chat. I have one-on-ones with some girlfriend entrepreneurs of mine that I absolutely love. And then some episodes are just me. So it's kind of all over the place, but in a beautiful way. And it's been so much fun to watch it develop over the last year.
I love it. No, that's cool. As you know, I'm doing my own podcast, Yes to Entrepreneurship, and talking about, these types of conversations, the conversations you don't really hear often. Mm-hmm. And, for me coming up with that, it's fairly easy because of the fact that I love entrepreneurship and I love talking with people and helping people. So that part wasn't hard. How did you come up with your podcast, and, what kind of sparked that?
Oh, I wish I could say that I took it slow and planned ahead, like it sounds like you're doing, which is awesome, because I was like, I'm one of those weird tech people. I have a background in film and TV. So I'm used to having an idea, writing it, shooting it, editing it, being done. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. I had no idea about anything back then. It wasn't as well known with the technology. So I was using my old M audio system that I used to record music with. Literally they don't even have it wasn't like a normal USB. It was some kind of ancient monster that won't even plug into a desktop or modern laptop. It was a disaster. So I was totally thrown into the deep end and just kind of throwing spaghetti on the wall, seeing what would stick. So unlike my personality. So it was definitely just a random, I need to start a podcast. And then the next day, starting to record with people, it was madness.
Sometimes though, that is exactly how you have to do it sometimes. I mean, with this kind of how I did it, I was like, okay, I'm just going to jump in. I've been talking about it and I just need to jump in. So, I still had some planning, but I jumped in. And then I remember back when I used to work at Apple, there was one of my first days, I had to do a presentation, which I learned about 10 minutes after the presentation started. Oh. I was working retail and they have those workshops that are free. And the main trainer was like, so do you know that you're going to be doing this workshop and it's already 10 minutes after? And I'm like, no.
You're like, of course I do. Let me,
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what my reaction was. I was like, okay, so what's the topic? And I think it was getting started with your Mac. So, I literally just jumped in. It was a full table and I just went with it. And it was great, because you just piece things together. But I totally get that feeling because
that's so the entrepreneur style. It's just, flail with dignity. That's pretty much all it is,
Yeah, exactly. And you learn from it. And then it almost makes it even that much more better because you're like, yes, okay, now who can do this next?
Absolutely. 100%.
That's awesome. So how do you structure because you mentioned that there's a few different conversations you're having. How do you kind of structure that, especially since, you have the film background? Because that's very interesting.
Well, in the beginning, I listened to a bunch of other shows and I really liked John Lee Dumas's format. And so I thought, oh, since I like it so much, that's the format I should do. And I think it's pretty normal when you're first starting out to have like those select set of questions because as an interviewer, you're terrified, right? And like you're sending your questionnaires out to people ahead of time so that they know because then it'll be great. And what I found yeah, practicing is totally fine, but I tend to be more of a conversationalist.
Totally.
And I wasn't getting as deep as I wanted to get with my guests. And I realized I had to, in a way, be more selfish. And instead of using the show to highlight the person and their accomplishments and what they're doing, instead to switch to, okay, if I'm in systems month, I really want people to understand how to book, with like a scheduling software so they can free up their time. So let me bring on Nikki Nash and let's really dive into that so that my audience can feel fed, like they have an actionable tip and want to keep tuning in. Because for me, it just wasn't as attractive of a format to go from person to person to person, but not really have implementable strategy. Not saying that it's wrong for anyone else, but for my show, that's what resonated more with me. And I think it takes about 6 months to get your feet wet and to really know what your show is going to be about.
Sure. And you brought up a great point. You did your research and you listened to the different shows. You picked the format that worked for you. And yes, that may not be for everyone, but it worked for you. And so that's what makes you stand out. And that's what I tell a lot of people, clients and prospective clients, is that you really have to do that research. You have to take a look at the competition, take a look at what else is out there, and even outside of your zone, just so that way you can pull a little bit of everything and really see what works for you and then run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one else is going to do it for you. And, a lot of people think, well, what if I fail? What if no one listens? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, well, there's a chance that you might, but it's okay. It takes 3,000 hours to become an expert in anything anyway. So there's going to be a lot of failure and that's fine. Stop using it as an excuse to not do something and just plow ahead. It's like if you would have told me a year ago that I'd be building an e-course on podcasting, I would have laughed in your face, right? But I've done it for so long and so many hours. Now that's what people want from me. So it's all a stepping stone.
It's so true. And that's what I also try to remind people is that, I always value feedback. And I always tell people, think about failure as opportunities. Don't think of it as you failed and you can never get back up. Don't let that pull you down. You got to look at it as it's an opportunity for you to do what's coming up next. I had my first business, which was a magazine. It was called Mix It Up Magazine. And I was still in college and I said, why not just create my own magazine? Because I didn't want to move to New York at the time to go work for Men's Health. So I ended up picking up a book. One thing led to another and I created a magazine. And
wow.
It was awesome. And it gave me everything I needed. Was it a moneymaker? No. And did I stop after 2 years? Yeah, I knew when to call it quits. It was hard because it was, as an entrepreneur, we have our babies and we don't want to say no, but at the same time, we can't let it drain us of funds and life and everything else.
Well, and as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you use those skills when you're creating content, when you're designing your website, when you're doing interviews. So that's the beautiful thing about what we do, that none of our past failures are wasted time. It's just checking off those expert hours. I mean, if I didn't have the degree and the experience in TV film, if I hadn't gotten my interior design degree, if I hadn't gotten my holistic degree, all of those things that I felt like I failed at, I use every day in my business. That's the beautiful thing about what we do.
It's so true. And I love that you say that because that is what makes us so unique. And that's what gives us that quote expert status, right? Everyone's worried about calling themselves an expert because they don't know the ins and outs of everything. And it's like, well, that's not what an expert is. An expert is somebody who knows what they're talking about. And if they don't, they know where to find the resources and they know where to point you in the right direction,
Absolutely.
That's what I'm always telling people is that, don't worry about trying to find the one person that can do everything perfectly. Worry about finding the right person to do whatever it is you're looking for. And if they're good, they're going to know the next person to get you to. And like you said, when I did the magazine, those skills brought me to that next level. And And I'm one of the entrepreneurs that I'm always coming up with something. I'm like, I always joke that, you know, yeah, it's like, I mean, it's in our blood and we just do it, right?
I was on the phone with my husband. He called me on his lunch because he works in TV. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got a lot of great opt-ins from this Infopreneur Summit I was doing. And I just did a little workshop on course creation, right? And he's like, oh, you'd be so good at, I'm like, stop, just don't finish that sentence. Don't say, he's like, but you could create. I'm like, no. I'm on my 6th e-course. We are taking a break and then doing something different. Like, no.
Yes.
That's like the creative bug, right? You're like, ooh, I can make this. Ooh, I can make that. And all of a sudden it's like this mountain. Like you see my whiteboard. It's no joke, right?
Oh yeah. I got the Post-its all over the desk.
Oh yeah.
I got the book. I got everything.
Nice.
And that brings up a good point. So how do you fend off those shiny new objects?
Yeah, you know, a little bit of ninja, but this board has really saved me. I was feeling so all over the place. My mom's like, Michelle, since you were in 2nd grade, you like to map it all out. So go get a board. I'm like, okay, Mom. And I wrote down all of my business pillars, and under every business pillar, and I think on the board there's 5 there, I wrote what needed to be completed, which is like a month worth of graphics, an email sequence, a challenge or an opt-in, a course, all that kind of stuff. So that the last 3 months have been me banging those out one at a time, because my ultimate goal before I move on to group coaching is to get all of my courses and the funnels for those courses done so that Facebook ads can do their job.
Nice.
So I think that was the best way for me to stay focused. And I find that people that are really overwhelmed and wanting to do everything, A, don't have clarity on their business pillars, and B, are trying to condense too much education into one product. So that really helped me.
And you know, that's true, because I always feel better when I'm writing something down, especially when I can, if you put a mind map in front of me, I mean, that's like opening up Christmas morning, right? It's like total nerd alert right there. It's like, give me a mind map to work with and I will be so happy. Give me a Post-it or a big whiteboard and I'm good to go. Because drawing those things out and being able to do that, because we have so many things going on and we have so many ideas. And at least in my case, there's some that I'm like, okay, I may have 5 different ideas, but they all kind of link to each other. And then I just have to really map it out and see, how do I link them? And at what point do I start working on them?
Yeah.
That's the part.
You have to really break it down. Otherwise it's scary. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, how am I going to do all that? Especially if you're a one-man shop. So breaking it down into those actionable tasks. And like you said, with the Post-its and stuff, like, okay, here's the master plan. And now I'm going to take away every single Post-it except for the first one, and then add the second, then add the third, because we tend to get too much. I was on a coaching call this morning and this girl was doing her first 5-day online challenge. And she's like, day 1's going to be mindset. Day 2's going to be money. Day 3 is going to be funnels. I'm like, stop. Oh my God. Like, that's amazing that you want to share that much, but that's way too much for people to consume. And we were able to find the clarity of her just focusing on mindset. And all of a sudden, all this content started popping out. So, I mean, clarity is always king or queen, and it helps so much, especially in my business. And I'm sure your business, it's key to everything.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally agree. And that's the thing that has really, I mean, I've had that for a long time with different businesses, but probably within the last almost year now, for my other business, Stupid Easy, I have been really doing tons of research, and it's actually going to be a new online course platform. So people can upload.
Awesome.
Yeah, it will be awesome. And I'm so excited about it. And what's great about it is it's all bite-sized learning, right? It's less is more in this sense. And that you really do want to focus on bringing a narrowed perspective, like narrowing it down to just that, like you said, that mindset. Don't give every single thing each day. It's nice. Ideally, everyone wants more for their money, right? But at the same time, it's not beneficial to the person creating it or the person that's actually buying it, because they have too much to do. That's too much of an overwhelm, and then they end up not doing it. And then they've lost out on the education and the money.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's so funny. You've probably experimented with this too. When I first started developing courses and had free beta testers, they didn't finish. I never got the testimonials, or their testimonials would be negative because it was based on their own stuff from not finishing the course and all that. And then when I started saying, hey, if you want to beta test my course and I'll give you 50% off, I got sales, yay.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the reviews are pouring in the 2-week time frame, like butter. So it's really interesting, the psychology that goes behind value. You can have the same information and it's so valuable either way, but if you have to pay for it, there's something in the brain that's like, oh, okay, like I invested in this, therefore I have to invest in myself. It's fascinating.
It's so true. And I'll tell you, I hate pricing because it's such, it's all this trial and error, and you just never know. And like you said, it's a mind game, and it's one of those things that we all are like, well, I want free, but at the same time, if I pay for it, then I actually am going to do something. I'm going to engage with it, versus the free person. It's kind of like, well, unless they're really high level like us, where we're like, yes, I just want to do all of this fun stuff, chances are they're not going to be able to engage as much as they would if it was free.
Yeah. And I think, prices are so fluid. For me, what my prices were for my courses, once I developed more than 4, I had to go back and restructure and really take people step by step. Here's step 1, 2, 3, 4, and price that accordingly. Yeah. And it's funny, like, the magic 7, that works great for me. People, I don't know what it is, like 97 versus 100. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, why? But okay.
I am the same way. I'm like, how is that different? I want flat rates. I want to be $100, done deal.
Yeah.
$50, done deal. But it's those weird 7 and 9s. I don't get it.
And I did like what was it? It was like a 20% off, a $97 offering. So it was $77.60. And they loved it. I mean, it was like 20 sales in one day. And I'm like, what the, like, it doesn't even make sense. I mean, I guess the magic 7, but it was like, and 60 cents. And it worked great for them. And I'm like, this just all blows my mind. This is craziness. It
does. And that's what kills me. And I'm pretty much a one-man shop. I mean, I have an assistant that's part-time, and I have my team, which is, I call them my friends, my family, everyone who's a part of my world is my team, because they're all supporting in some way or another, right?
Yeah.
They're putting
Those
in
are the people that drag you out of your basement and make you go get a coffee and smack you around because you're like, everything's failing. And they're like, the email just didn't go out correctly. It's not the end of the world. You're like, yes, it is. And they're like, oh my God, stop.
Yes. No. And that's a good point. How do you deal with the loneliness? Because, you said in the basement, most of the time even if we don't have basements, we feel like we're stuck in a basement somewhere. How do you deal with the loneliness?
I call it going into the submarine. So my friends and my family know, like, I'm in course creation right now. So I turn off the podcast. I don't watch lives. I'm not doing any courses. It's 2 weeks. I'm creating, leave me alone kind of a thing, except for coming on to your show.
Yeah. Which I appreciate.
But besides that, I think it's really, I have a daily routine. Every morning I go to the coffee shop for an hour. I get my fantastic iced tea since I don't like coffee.
Yum.
And I do my studies. I do my inspirational stuff, my affirmations. I get my head on straight. And in terms of not getting like too sucked into the loneliness, I am an only child, so I don't think I suffer from it. Are you too? But I schedule like one thing a week with a good friend, just like going to a coffee shop or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have a mastermind that I meet with every 2 weeks on Google Hangouts. And then weekends are for family. And I find that that's a really good combination. If you are feeling totally isolated and lonely, then I definitely recommend, not you, but people listening, to find a mastermind, go into a group and ask. Like, so many people are afraid to ask. So you actually having the courage to do that, you're thinking what about 20% of the people in the group are thinking. So that's how I got started. Someone approached me. And then make sure that at least once a day you're getting outside of your house. Like, remember when we first started and it's like from like the sun comes up and there you are in front of the computer.
Yep.
And the sun goes down and there you are, and it's like 2 a.m. You're just like, I'm not a human being anymore.
Yes.
So like, you got to knock that stuff off. My business took off so much faster when I was only investing like 2 to 5 hours a day.
I love it.
The rest, I was resting and doing the self work, which is the hardest part, and that changes so much of your business. So I think that that's a good way to start getting out of that swamp.
Yeah. Oh man, you nailed it. This is awesome that we met, because it is like, we are just like twins right now. I swear.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. I am all about getting out of the house, health and fitness. Like, part of my daily routine is to go to the gym, because I like to go to the gym so that way I actually see people.
Yeah. And human beings. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They're real.
They are. And then what encourages me is being able to see all different types of people, different shapes, everything, working out to feel better, to look better, to just be healthy. And that just, I mean, even walking in, you're like, well, I got to do something, because I can't just sit around and watch TV all day. Like, I got to go do that.
Yeah.
So it's just, that part is the motivation part. And then I get to see people, I get to interact with people, and I get to be healthy. But getting out of the house is a huge one for me as well. And, you know, I don't do the coffee shop thing as much as I'd like to, just because where I'm at, it's kind of the country area. And I mean, I can still do it, but it's just.
Get yourself a good tree stump, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
With a vista.
Yeah.
And bring out your coffee and chat with the neighboring squirrel.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I have 2 dogs, so they both do pretty well at the conversation part.
So look away while the dogs are attacking the squirrels.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep. But yeah, getting out and having a daily routine is huge. And ever since I started my business, I did do the same thing, where I structured it so that weekends I'm off. Those are for family. And maybe every once in a while, photography side gig if I want to, but mostly. My
husband does photography as a side gig. It's like a twin situation happening. This is awesome.
This is cool.
I love it.
And so, yeah, so I'll do that. And then, you know, during the week, it's mostly the work, but you pointed out a very good point that I want to say, because that's part of what I do as well. And I've noticed, and I was just having this conversation with a good friend of mine the other day, is that you're really only working a few hours a day. I think you might've said like 2 to 5 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's true. You really are only doing that. I noticed that with myself. And, you know, sometimes you kind of feel, at least I do, a little guilty, because I'm like, wow, I really should be working more.
Yeah, I know.
But you, like you said, it's really that focused work. And that's what I try to remind people that watch me on live or that are on Facebook and wherever else. I try to remind them, like, it's all about making sure you're taking care of yourself. You're doing your research. You're really trying to find the information and make that time to study, because everyone gets so caught up, and it's easy to do, especially when starting out. But we all get caught up in that. I gotta be hustling. I gotta get every client in the world. And yeah, exactly.
Whenever someone says hustle, I'm like, oh my God, I just dropped the headphones. Hang on. Tragedy. Oh, tragedy. Okay. Are you still there?
Yes. That's what makes it feel, that's what we feel like, right? When we hear that.
I have an explosive reaction to the word hustle. Now you know.
But it's true. You know, so many people get caught up with, I have to have so many clients and do this and that. And it's like, well, maybe you do, depending on your situation. I mean, everyone has different situations, different expenses and stuff. But when you actually break it down and you really focus on what is it that you want to do, that you like to do, that you're passionate about, and that you know people could benefit from, when you focus on that and you do that research and you schedule out that time, that's what really matters. And being able then to just take those few hours that you do work, those are huge. I mean, it almost feels like a whole day, especially when you're using your creative power, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, and you have to open yourself. It takes work. Like, believe me, when I first started, it was hard. I spent all day building my first e-course, and it took me months, and it was just like blood, sweat, and tears. But the more that I focused on mindset, growth and understanding how it's like my favorite author of all time is Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself,
Nice.
and how he teaches you how to rewrite your neural pathways. It's literally breaking the old self and building a new one by accessing through meditation the alpha state versus the beta state. So alpha is much more calm and serene and creative. Beta is that whole hustle, stress, must have coffee to survive kind of situation.
Yeah.
All the time online, and those are the people that are having to work 12 to 14 hours a day. They're getting anxiety attacks, they're going to the ER with exhaustion. I don't know if you hear a lot of entrepreneurs, but I see them all the time that they're like, oh, well, I'm deathly ill after they've had a launch, or oh, just got out of the ER because I'm so nutrient depleted. I mean, that is how, for the majority, we're taught how to be entrepreneurs in this, nasty kind of box. So
right.
I hated that. It wasn't good for me. And so I spent a lot of time meditating and reading about these people, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, figuring out like, how can I make this so that the 2 to 5 hours I am in my business, I get just as much, if not more, done.
Right.
Right. And I started noticing things like what people were saying, like, I need more money, I need more clients, blah, 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 blah. Well, if you think about the neurons in our brain, which are your brain cells, which then form neural pathways to help you get where you want to go and wire your thinking process, that whatever energy you're putting out there is coming back.
Yes.
So if you keep saying, I need more clients, I need more money, then the universe goes, oh, okay, we'll bring you more of that need. So it keeps getting worse and worse. So my business, and I'm sure yours, totally changed when I started rewriting my thoughts. And then suddenly people are attracted to the group. People are coming in and opting in. It's like, it's crazy, right?
It's so true. And that's the thing. Like, even when I was working a 9 to 5, I always told people, I'm not about the numbers, those will come later. I'm about making sure that the customer gets what they need and what's appropriate for them. Mm-hmm. If it's not a sale today, no problem. It's a relationship for later, and they're going to come back. And I did. I had people that would wait. At Apple, we weren't on commission, but I had people literally wait half hour sometimes to work just with me, even when there was other people ready to go.
I love that. That's what a high compliment.
And isn't that amazing? Like, I would use that as an example, not to say, oh, look at me, I'm the best, but I use that as an example to the team and to others that you want that. You want people to be able to want to work with you, and that they're going to pay you what that job didn't pay in that sense. But like, I had my first client, I would go across the states to go work with them, like I would be able to go to different shows and help them. And it was just amazing. They could have anybody in their area, but they chose me from California to go ahead and go wherever they needed. It speaks volume when you can find what you love to do and be able to present that and understand that it's not about the sales.
I think you're so right. And that's an interesting point. At what point as an entrepreneur do you have the perspective that it is a privilege to be in their inbox, in their wallet, or do you see it as a right? I have to have more clients. I have to have more customers. And so why aren't these people flocking to me and blah, blah, blah. We get this false sense of entitlement because we're working so hard, and it is what we want. But I think like what you're talking about, when you go back into, I'm here to serve, that doesn't mean that my cup goes empty. If I serve, it refills, but like it is a privilege. And that's what I think changed for me, is that then when I was writing my emails, I thought, what would I like to see? Yes. And I realized I really love seeing the people that I trust. Let's throw out Mel Farr, because I always do. And what do I love about her? Okay, So I started shaping my emails differently. I started putting in GIFs from my YouTube videos so that they could see my face. I started really breaking it out so it was super clear. And people respond. They notice. If you take that time to really reach people where they're at and insert those extra details, even though you're not getting paid for it, like it builds that know, like, and trust. Whatever makes you a raving fan of a musician or an entrepreneur, like you have to put in that same amount of effort. So it takes time to get it clear, but it really pays off.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And speaking of email marketing, because that's always a pain for everyone.
Yeah.
It's like, you bring up some good points though, that you started to notice that you were putting yourself in those emails, literally with your photos and your words. And how did you start to think about structuring your your sequences? Because those are always hard, I think.
Sequences are fun. I don't know. I looked at it and went, I want to do stuff that I don't see anyone else doing because that's going to be fun. So let's see, what did I do? I have I wish I had it here. I have a really big notebook and it's just flashy pink, just like totally nauseous. Right? But it's tons of big, huge white sheets of paper.
Okay.
And that's how I start all of my ideas for courses or whatever. And so I put story at the top of it. And then I just in bullet points started highlighting all the unique experiences that I've had in my life, whether it be I was born blue because I couldn't breathe out, what I did when I went to this horseback riding competition and the horse got the bit in its mouth and I didn't have any control, when I went to Salzburg on this random scholarship, just like these different things. And we all have little bits of our story.
Yeah.
And I started looking at all these different sequences and figuring out what part of my story would integrate with systems or branding or video or live streaming. Like one of them was about me, because when I was young, I used to, this is so embarrassing. I used to take twine and make leashes for my chickens.
Nice.
Legit. So, so like things like that are funny and endearing and where people can relate and be like, oh my gosh, when I was 6, I used to do this with my cat or whatever. So I found that was really drew people in to know, like, and trust me.
Yeah.
Because we really forget to incorporate our story and not like, hey, email 1, let me tell you my life story and it'll be 10 pages, but just like little blurbs. People really enjoy that. So that made a big difference for me and made me excited to take people on a journey. So mine's set up like you go into systems, I give you an educational sequence. Then if you don't buy the course, I give you a choice to go into any of my other educational sequences. So it's like a huge circle.
Yeah.
But it took time to build, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say is like, that sounds fantastic. And I know that when I hear that, I'm like, okay, so how much time did that take? And how many hours each day am I blocking out for this? Because that's the,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always hard, especially when, for me at least, and I think this is true for a lot of entrepreneurs because we're all creative, is that you have to be in that mindset to be like ready to go. And sometimes it's not Monday at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Sometimes it's,
I don't think it ever is.
Yeah. Most of the time it's usually the complete opposite.
Yeah. I think you just have to give yourself permission to do something different, do something new, and believe that it will succeed because you're creating it. The worst thing you can do is copy and paste Hillary Rushford or Marie Forleo or Tony Robbins emails and be like, oh, they did it and this works, so it'll work for me. No, it won't. They have a different energy, so it's not going to work. So I think give yourself time. I do my business by monthly themes. So like this month is podcasting month for me. Okay. And that means that I have 30 days to create my course. And every week a new podcast is coming out, a new blog, and, monthly graphics. And as the month goes on, I build out my email sequence, whether it's 5 emails if you're just getting started or like my more intense ones. Like as your price offering is higher, you have to do more education.
Sure.
So like one of them's, I think 6 emails, but the one I'm doing now will probably be closer to 15, but it takes time. Like I think a lot of people think they have to create this huge champion of an email sequence. It's like, you really don't. Just start with 5 and you can do that. Just do 1 a day and incorporate your story in 2 of them and there you go.
Yeah.
But it does take time. It's a process and you have to be patient with yourself.
No, that's true. And, there's a couple things on that too, is that, when you say give yourself permission, and that's true, to give yourself permission to do this and to put those positive thoughts out there. And, I know some people might think, oh, okay, well, that's a lot of BS that you're selling, because where do I do this and that and what time and all that? But it literally is true. I mean, it may sound like all fluffy and stuff, but it's not. It's real. It's really the truth, especially when you can feel it when you're actually in the middle of it. And being an entrepreneur, we know that, and we know that works for us.
Well, when you start out, and especially I think in your first 6 months, you want everybody to teach you how to do everything,
Yes.
specifically to the T, to the letter. Please sit here and hold my hand and tell me exactly what to do at every stage.
Yeah.
And that's usually why people hire one-on-one coaches. And those are the expectations they walk in with. This person is going to fix this problem for me, right?
Right.
And that's a really damaging mindset to go in with, which I've done, because no one is going to do this for you. They
Right.
can show you options of what worked for them and encourage you, but at the end of the day, this is your business. And since you did this so that you could have free creative expression and not have to work a 9 to 5 and all those wonderful things, that means you're inventing something new.
Yeah.
And that's like Einstein looking around and being like, hey, can someone come up with my idea? That's not going to happen. So you have to have that belief in yourself and step out from that victim mindset, which is everybody help me because I can't do it myself. And instead go, I'm capable of this. Where do I need to find wisdom? And then I can take the time to create my unique thing. And that's why the copycats don't work. I can't tell you how many people have tried to copy my Comfy on Camera challenge. So that's why it doesn't, land correctly, is because they're not originating it themselves.
Right. And I guess, compliments to you that they're copying you, because you're obviously doing something so good that they just can't wait to get their hands on it.
It's one of those things. It's just so uncomfortable, and you do your best to release it, but it's never fun.
No.
I mean, I remember going to prom and some girl had copied my dress and showed up with the same dress. So, there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
And I always try to remember where I was, and that it's so much easier to copy. It's really, really hard to step out on your own and to get all the gunk away to really figure out who you are and what your mission is.
Sure. Yeah. And going back to being able to learn and pull resources, one, do you still do that now in terms of just seeking out knowledge constantly and going to events? And two, did you do that at that time too when you were starting out? I mean, how did you do your networking and kind of get out there?
Well, when I started out, I was buying course after course after course. 10 grand later was like,
sounds about right for everyone.
Nothing's happened magically in my business. I thought I'd buy this course and the magic fairy would come and I would be rich. Like, I don't understand.
Yep.
I haven't done a ton of conferences in the time I've been in business, but the two that I have gone to, I've made wonderful connections that, so you'll know, is a wonderful resource for podcast guests, especially the people that are kind of that upper tier.
Yeah.
You're able to go up and be like, oh, hello, so-and-so, I really loved what you did, blah, blah, blah. And then you have that human conversation so that when you go to ask them on your show, they remember you.
Right.
But most of my stuff has been, honestly, not even really in this environment. Like, yeah, I'll take a course every once in a while, but I'm more so interested in like the bigger concept stuff and the self-growth, because then I find I get these like direct downloads of what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
So that's probably been the most motivational and impactful for me.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned, haven't been to a few that many conferences, because I'm the same way actually. As much as I would like to, I haven't been to a whole lot. And part of that is because I know that I'm going to be like 10 times faster and like more energized than I already am. So it's almost like, taking the caffeine pill to the extreme. So I have to try to avoid that. But the few that I have been to, I have definitely met some great people. And a lot of what I've tried to do too in my area is go to, they have basically like workshops, free workshops for entrepreneurs, mostly to be curious. I mean, obviously networking is great, but I'm more curious about like, what are they teaching? How are they teaching it? And what's the interest like? Because I'm always curious. I'm always like, when I look at something, I'm like, how can I make that better?
Yeah, I'm the same
too, but
it's the type A thing.
Yeah.
I totally get it. I don't go to a lot of events, but I plan on merging into that myself in a couple of months. So I think, it's just a personality type. Some people love events, event. I know someone who just went to like 6 in 3 months and they love it and it's great for them. And that's fantastic. For me, I would be like asleep somewhere, like on the streets. So I think it just depends on your personality.
Well, it's true. And, taking that and taking what you mentioned about courses, because everyone does this with courses, buys, rarely gets through them and rarely applies what they learn. I would think the same would be said for these conferences, that a lot of people go, they spend all this money and they go to these conferences, which is great. But if you're doing conference after conference, how much are you actually applying to your business, and how much of that are you actually retaining? Because it's a lot of work, whether you're working or you're just attending. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of information that you have to take in, let alone try to figure out how you're going to apply it. And if you're still running your business, I don't see much time.
No, there's not. I think you have to understand that the psychology behind events is to create a high, right? Yes. Because they want you to purchase whatever it is, which is fine. It's the same thing as an email sequence, but sure, you have to be smart, and you have to separate your emotions from your brain and go, okay, no, I'm not going to buy that $10,000 coaching package, right? But what I do after the events I've been to, I keep a notebook or whatever, and then I go to the coffee shop and I figure out what things do I feel led to implement into my business. And I think if you don't have that time, then you're just going to keep going because you want that high, but you really have to, because the brain wants implementation. That's the only way it'll retain it. So you have to have that separate time away from the high where you're actually putting in the steps.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I built my office hours, to be honest, is from the beginning, I set those expectations. I have it in my email signature. I have it on the website. These are my office hours. I'm off on Wednesdays and I'm off on the weekends, because I know that that's the time where I want to work on my stuff or extra stuff that I need to. And so, the more you do and the more you think about it, you do start getting into these, okay, well, I'm making my availability less and less because I have to do X, Y, and Z, which is going to produce more.
Exactly.
In that terms of value, not necessarily just quantity. You want the value part.
You're freaking me out because I take Wednesdays off too. This is just weird. This is just getting weird.
This is crazy. I'm telling you, we definitely are one and the same here.
We're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, it is so crazy.
That's
and
awesome.
So what are your responsibilities as a business owner? Because I know a lot of people will ask me, since I'm a one-person shop as well, a lot of people will ask me, well, what do you do? I know you do so many things and all that, but what are your main responsibilities in order to keep the lights on, basically?
Yeah, I think, what would you say? Of course, there's all the systems I could bore you with, like email responders and calls and all that stuff. I think my main responsibilities are course creation and tripwires. Those are my main money makers. Eventually it'll be group coaching and events and stuff, but I do everything right now myself. I haven't fully been ready to invest in a VA because I did have some interns come on, and I failed in that I didn't have the tutorial videos and everything set up, and I just didn't really know how to delegate what I needed to do. And I wasn't really patient enough to want to walk them through something a lot. So I've learned a lot from that. And so now I'm in the process of really figuring out the systems and creating the tutorial videos so that when I bring someone on, it'll be really seamless. But it's hard.
Yeah, no, what you just said right there is key, because I think this applies to all of us entrepreneurs, but I know me as well, because systems is big, is that it's hard to let go of stuff, especially when you think and feel that you can just do it quicker versus handing it off to somebody.
Yeah.
In some cases that's true. In other cases it may not be, but it's very hard to do that. And so when I hired my assistant, she's a VA, but she's also somebody I used to work with. So I actually got lucky, so I knew her.
Yeah.
And it works out for both of us, but it was very hard. Sometimes it still is, but it was very hard because I would give her a task and then 5 seconds later I'd say, oh, it's already done. Don't worry about it. Because I would do it. And so I went through that struggle as well. And like you, what I found is that you do have to figure out first, what is your process, and run through it, write it all down. And then, as a tip for the video part, using QuickTime, if you have a Mac, you know, it's free screen recording, and you record your screen when you actually get the process down.
Yes.
And you save those videos in your Google Drive or wherever. And then that way you're like ready to go when you do get an assistant for that stuff. Because knowing those processes first is key, because otherwise
it'll save you time.
Yeah, because
I
went back and forth quite a bit.
It's hard, you know. I'm a type A analytical creative personality, and that's a really unfortunate combination because you can do so much. Like, some people are really creative and they hate all the systems.
Right.
Some people are amazing at the systems and they hate the creative. And it's like, I may not enjoy certain things, but I can get them done at the speed of lightning. And, you know, I don't have to wait. And that's the hardest thing for me, is being like, okay, let me give this to you. And then, hey, like, I'm getting a creative streak and I'm ready to get all this stuff. Like, it's hard. So I know it's going to happen eventually. Right now I'm managing okay. But I know that there will be a day that it will come that I'll need some extra support. But right now I'm just trying to get everything polished, and maybe this will help your listeners. I had no idea, like, okay, all the stuff I have, which I back up with Carbonite and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I also want it accessible online. And so I was hearing from Megan Mins a couple months ago to upgrade the Google Drive to be able to put everything there.
Yeah.
I have to do that still. Ed, help me. Oh my God. I'm scared already.
So have you not, you don't have Google Apps for Business yet, which is now called G Suite?
I have like Google Docs, Google Sheets, so I don't know if that's all the same thing.
It's part of that, but with Google, with G Suite, it's called now. It used to be Google Apps for Business. That is a paid service. It's like $5 a month. But what it does is it gives you that upgraded storage space. So, and then it gives you your professional email address if you want it, you know, at your website, for those who don't have it, and things like that. It is fantastic. I have a blog post on it I can send you.
Please do. So what's the difference between Google Drive and G Suite?
Well, it is the same in the sense that Google Drive is part of G Suite. It just is part of their business support. So you get support through their business department as well. And you get 30 gigs of storage versus like Drive. I think it's super low, and then you have to pay extra for it and stuff.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you told me that, because I would have gotten Google Drive and been like, what's going on?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And that's what I tell people is like, Google Drive or G Suites is the best $5 a month you could ever spend for your business, because you literally have everything right there. You can share documents and connect with each other, all of that stuff. And it's so easy, and it's right there. And it also helps eliminate email too. I mean, in a sense, you know, because the conversation, of course, you always have to redirect, but the conversation can stay in the comments on the document. So
awesome. Well, then I'm definitely have to do that. I appreciate that, because that was my next step, and I've been dreading it and putting it off, and like, oh, I could be doing this other thing instead, like petting my pug, like doing this.
It's so true. I know. So if you had to give one piece of advice to someone just starting out, what would it be? And I'll give you up to 3 if you really want to, because I'm all about the 3s.
I would say what would have saved me a lot of time, and why I built my Life Reboot course. You have to focus on yourself first. We all panic about our first product, our first whatever, and even if you build something spectacular, if it's not what your mission is, and if you haven't figured out who you are and what your mission is, it's all going to change anyway, or it's not going to succeed.
Yes.
So I would say, like, I don't want to be selfish, but I have all the books and the resources and the trainings in Life Reboot. And that's why anyone that comes to me and they're like, oh, I really want your video course, I'm like, no, do this one first.
Yeah.
Because you have to uncover all of that garbage to really figure out who you are, what's your programming, how to change that program, how to step into your future like program for success, so that you can build the systems and the branding and everything else you need for your business. So that would be my number one.
Yeah.
If you're not going to take the course, at least read the books like I've recommended and do the inner work to really be able to step into the business, because otherwise you'll just have that automatic failure mechanism trigger over and over again, and it will keep you from succeeding or moving forward in any way.
Yeah, no, and that's true. And I love the point that you make where you said, no, don't do this first, because I feel like I know there's so many people out there that would be like, well, I don't care, just buy it. Like, do whatever you want as long as I get paid. And that's what really ruins it for a lot of people, because not only are they getting their money taken and they're not getting the right steps, they're not going in the right direction. But then it makes it harder for people like us who are actually trying to help those people, because they've been burned before. So now it's like, well, how am I going to work with you when I already paid this person and didn't have a good experience?
That's a good point. And I think that's the main difference between an expert and an authority or a thought leader. An expert is just like, okay, here's all the information and I don't care who I sell it to or whatever. As an authority or a thought leader, I like to think you can purchase from me and then we can go to coffee in a week and you're excited to chat with me and have a relationship. Like, there are girls that are in my group that are in LA that have asked me to coffee and I go with them, and it's a very easy symbiotic relationship, even if they've purchased from me or not, because they know who I am. Yes. They trust me. They know that I'm not going to send them on some wild scavenger hunt. And so they're excited to have that relationship. And that's so important. Like, even if you're not going to be meeting with people at coffee shops, be sure that you're just authentically giving them good guidance, because a lot of people out there, they can hardly guide themselves. So they surely can't guide you. Right.
That's so true. And you know, that's why live broadcasting is so popular right now. It doesn't even matter if you don't have a business. The fact that if you get on live broadcasting, people want to see you, and that's how they're going to see through whatever you're trying to sell or not sell. You know, that's why live broadcasting is so big.
100%. So true. And that's, live, you can't hide anything. You can't really sugarcoat it. If you have 8 gallons of makeup on, people are like, they want to see you in more of that raw state so that they can trust you.
Exactly. No, it's true. Thanks for tuning in to the Yes to Entrepreneurship podcast. To find out more about each episode, including links to the guests that I bring on to the show, be sure to check out the show notes. Also, don't forget to subscribe in iTunes and go ahead and leave us a review.